Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Meanwhile Here on Earth. This program features in-depth conversations with the leading names in the subjects of UFOs, abductees, the paranormal, panel discussions, and the very best and brightest of the next generation of writers and researchers. Meanwhile Here on Earth, the show breaking new ground in alternative talk with your intrepid host, veteran investigative writer and researcher, Peter Robbins.
Good evening, or morning or afternoon, as the case may be for you. I'm Peter Robbins. This is Meanwhile Here on Earth. And in a little bit, we'll be joined by my guest for this evening, Deb White-Kauble. It's been brought to my attention that until KGRA Digital Broadcasting changes its policy of subscription only to watch this show, you can find it if you search under KGRA DB for digitalbroadcasting.com or by searching KGRA DB on Facebook and YouTube. So do your best to try to do that, and you can actually watch us while you listen. Thank you, Race Hobbs, for your always wonderful introduction to the music of the legendary Albert Bouchard, original co-founding member of the Blue Oyster Cult. I'm really glad, Race, that you and Robin, that your COVID seems to be dissipating to a great degree. It's wonderful news. And I wanted to start with a few words about somebody who we lost to COVID earlier this week, or a related aspect of it, and that is the late, great broadcaster Larry King. Really a household name in America. The thing that makes so many of us in this field so attached to Larry and his memory is that for decades, he was the one consistent figure in American broadcasting who really didn't care what networks or other broadcasters thought about what he thought about the subject of UFOs and their implications for humanity. I have no idea how many shows that he had that had the best and brightest names, the most controversial names, the one despicable name of Philip Klass, the arch debunker, but he felt, and I agree with him, to give him some time on air as well. From everything that I have heard over the years, he was also one of the nicest people in broadcasting. And married 8 times, Kinahara, and a happy warrior, so to say. We should all live lives as filled as his. So thank you, Larry King, for everything. We will do our best to continue in your footsteps. I had wanted to mention also tonight, relative to UFOs and media, that a little over a week ago, I watched a film about the UFO subject, but about an aspect of it I always found controversial and problematic. And the film really stood out in the world of UFO-related films. I can't even compare it to any other film I've ever seen. It's called The 11th Green, as in the, and then the number 11, T8th, green. It attaches itself to the subject of President Eisenhower. And part of the mythology, lore, legend, rumors that have penetrated UFO subject for decades, we all know that he was aware, as well as we can know, but that he actually came to New Mexico, met with aliens, and that in the minds of some people, a treaty was signed. I have always found myself unpleasantly dealing with that subject of a treaty. It's allegedly followed a battle under Dulce, New Mexico, in a secret alien base or secret alien human base where X number of Americans lost their lives. Eisenhower came to New Mexico, met with representatives of this group, and signed a treaty. As the late, great Budd Hopkins used to say, and his name will come up a number of times tonight, they don't have to sign treaties with anybody. And so when I heard there was a film that dealt with this subject, I thought, I need to see this. And I was knocked out by it. It was by turns really original, very thoughtful, very low key, and courageous. I will say that. The director of the film, Christopher Munch, has made a number of other films in Hollywood over the years, one dealing with Bigfoot, and took risks here that I've never seen a director quite take. The actor who plays Eisenhower and did a superb job at it, George Girdes, sadly passed away on New Year's Day. And his depiction of that president and his relationship with his wife, I found both moving and viable, so to say. The star of the film is an actor we see much too rarely as far as I'm concerned, Campbell Scott. If that name doesn't jump out at you, check his filmography. He comes from acting royalty as far as I'm concerned. He is the son of two great actors, Mr. George C. Scott and Ms. Colleen Dewhurst. And he plays a muckraking journalist, and the plot revolves around his relationship with his late dad. Anyway, I don't want to give anything away about the film, just to say that I found it so compelling that I've been back and forth in contact with Christopher, and he will be a guest on the show in the spring. You can see the film, The 11th Green, on Amazon. You can download it, or you can buy the DVD. And I recommend everybody that likes films on this theme, give it a try. See what you think of it. Now, tonight's guest, Deb White-Kauble, is best known as the central figure in Budd Hopkins' international bestseller, Intruders, The Incredible Visitations at Copley Woods. In 1992, Hopkins' book was made into a CBS miniseries of the same name. These two events made Deb into an internationally recognized person in both ufology and popular culture. She went on in 1992 to publish a book with her sister Kathy Mitchell called Abducted, The Story of the Intruders Continues. And I am very pleased to say that that book is going to be republished. It's been out of print for too long, in an updated and expanded version by August Night Press, I believe in March, but Deb can confirm that when she comes on. Deb has rarely made public appearances in recent years in the pre-pandemic days, but she has appeared on the Discovery Channel's Investigation X, the History Channel's UFO Hunters, the Sci-Fi Channel, Unsolved Mysteries, Sightings, Maury Povich, Oprah Winfrey's AM Chicago, the Dinty Moore Show in Canada, as well as others. Deb has been the guest speaker at numerous universities, think tanks, and conferences around the world, as well as a guest on numerous radio broadcasts and podcasts. She co-hosted her own podcast, Midwest Paratalk, with Greg Cable, and together with Greg, they co-founded the paranormal research team, the Paranormal Underground. Her special interest in paranormal research is with electronic voice phenomena, through which she has collected many impressive examples of anomalous activity over the last years. Deb is a wife, mother to 4, and grandmother to 8. She lives in north central Indiana, was a member of the disaster action team for the local chapter of the American Red Cross, is a member of Mensa, a licensed cosmetologist, and until recently worked full-time at an automotive electronics parts supplier. Deb White-Kauble, welcome to Meanwhile Here on Earth.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
And in the interest of full disclosure, you and I have been friends since 1983 or 1984 and have been madly in love with each other all those years.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
Okay. Just so people know up front.
Mm-hmm. You were the very first, you and your sister Helen were the very first two people that I met in this whole thing, this whole ufology abduction thing with when I went to see Budd.
Yeah.
Number one, right there.
I remember that too. And in part because I was so involved in just learning what Budd was learning right after the fact in the privileged position of being his assistant. And so we kind of grew up together in this story, to the degree that an outsider like me can appreciate what somebody like you has gone through. I also want to thank you in advance for allowing me to ask you questions about areas that, for another person would not be comfortable. Everything that I'm going to ask you is in print or, published in one way or another, but still, some of the memories that you have are, very rough and very challenging. And the position that you hold in this wild and woolly field is very unique. In preparing for this show, I reread Intruders, which of course I read when it came out. I had read drafts of before it was published, and I've read once or twice straight through since then, but not for some years. I also read most of, but not all of your and Kathy's Abducted book. And I rewatched the miniseries, the CBS miniseries as well. And it not only brought back a lot of the specifics of your case, to use the most dispassionate word possible, but memories from that time of you're becoming part of our family and knowing the things that you had struggled through, and not alone. Your family was very involved in this. So I want people to understand that the book Intruders, when it came out, was a milestone in UFO literature. It really made a difference. It's one of the most important UFO books I think ever written. I'm hardly objective here, but I do have some objectivity. It also, in rereading it, it reminded me of things that I got to know second nature over 35 years about Budd. He really was a remarkable investigator and somebody who really cared about the people that he worked with. It all comes through, and the amount of detail and the way that he tells the story and the way that you and Kathy then retell the story in a much more intimate way, really blew me away yet once again. So let's get started, with some of the backstory here. I'm going to put a picture up on the screen to start with, and let's remember that some of the people here who are watching are only listening. They're not watching. So we have a picture here of what looks like a rickshaw with two little kids in it. Who are those two little kids?
Well, one of them is my mother. My mom, I don't know who the other kid was, but the rickshaw was in China and it was being pulled by my mom's nanny. My mom was adopted at the age of 2 from an orphanage in Louisville, Kentucky by a master sergeant in the Army. And shortly after the adoption, they were sent to China. And I think it has something to do with some massive earthquake and helping them there. And so she actually lived in China for 2 years. And this is a photograph of her being dragged around in the rickshaw by her nanny.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Was she old enough to have any memories of her childhood in China?
I asked her that, and she didn't really have any memories. The only thing that she really had was this Chinese Buddha carved out of cherry wood. The details were so intricate, each tiny tooth and everything. And right before she passed away, she asked all of us kids if we wanted whatever the one thing of hers that we wanted the most, take it now. And I said, I want the little Chinese Buddha because I used to rub his head and he was just so soft and silky, that cherry wood. And so I still have it now, but that came from her time in China.
Wow. Moving on, we have a very handsome couple here. Who are these people?
That is my mother and my father on their wedding day. They were two incredibly unique people, and I thought they looked like movie stars.
I think so too.
Daddy was handsome. Mom was pretty. Mom was 15. Dad was 19.
Wow.
I know. Mom used to announce shows at the USO, on the stage, and she always used to say, every time I walked outside, all the boys whistled.
Good cause.
I could see why. Yeah. I'm proud of, that's my mom and dad.
That's a beautiful couple. Yeah. And not that long after this picture was taken, a matter of, I'm guessing, within the next few years, this person came along. Who is that gorgeous baby?
Well, actually, that's me. That's the only known picture of me until I'm like 5 or 6. But Kathy came before I did. Kathleen was 11 years older than me. And they lived on Westbrook when Mom had her. Shortly after they were married, Mom was young. Mm-hmm. And then 11 years passed before they got pregnant again. And funny story, the house they lived in had always been known in the neighborhood, or had been known in the neighborhood as the cursed house. Anybody who lived in this house could never have babies or children. Well, they had Kathy right before they moved into the house. They lived in the house for 11 years, and then they tried to have more kids and never had them, moved out, and moved to, the east side of Indianapolis in 1958. And guess who got born in 1959? This one right here. And then 14 months after this one came my brother Bob, and 14 months after my brother Bob came little Sherry. So I don't know, might be something to be said about that cursed house.
Apparently. Jump ahead a few years.
Oh, Jesus. This is me and my little brother. Okay, look at the hoofs on that girl. Anyway, I'm saying, I sent you this because I wanted to show you. Yeah. I mean, I told you that I had precocious puberty. I grew quickly. Yeah. I started my period at 7. I had a lot of health issues revolving around adrenal problems and whatnot, although I could never find a physical reason for it. There was no tumor on the adrenal gland or any of that such. But look at the difference between me and him. I was 14 months older than him. And by the time I was in kindergarten, I was the same height as my teacher. I'm 5'3" now. I was 5'2" in kindergarten.
Oh my God.
I stopped growing. Yeah, I was a weirdo. I've always had unusual, medical stuff.
Yeah. I can only imagine, having been the shortest boy in all my classes up until somewhere in high school.
Look at my foot next to Bobby's foot. Good God, I look like Bigfoot.
Short guys relate to tall girls.
It's kind of embarrassing. That picture is embarrassing.
But yeah, well, good for you. I salute you for letting us have it. You're nothing if not courageous. Cinderella, explain. This is the pumpkin, chariot. This is what brought Cinderella back from the ball, as I recall. What's the story?
I don't know who all the other little kids are. I didn't know them all, but that was in, the park at Ellenberger Park where I grew up in Indianapolis. And when I was a little kid, my mom took us there all the time to play. And that pumpkin, I spent so much time sitting in that pumpkin, usually alone, daydreaming about life and future and things like that.
Sure.
Getting married and having kids. When I was a little kid, I even wanted to be a mom. So,
wow.
Yeah, that was my favorite place to be when I was little, right there in that pumpkin.
It's wonderful. And one more for the moment. Who is this gentleman here?
That's my pops.
Yeah.
That's Daddy. We called him SpongeBob SquarePants. His name is, okay, this is funny. His name is Harry, right? On the birth certificate, it's Harry R. White, all that. My mother, when he met my mom, he went by the name Bob. And he didn't realize that Robert was his middle name until a long time later. And he just went by Bob all the time. And my mom always called him Bob. And I can still hear in my head, Jesus Christ, Bob! Because she would get mad at him. And I thought his name was Jesus Christ Bob for the first 5 years of my life, I think. But he was a ham radio operator.
I guess. That's a major setup.
I grew up listening every night to WA9CYV, Whiskey Alpha 9, Charlie Yankee Victor. That was his call sign. And he talked to the Apollo astronauts. He had all kinds of certificates from that. And because of him, I got interested in things like that. He had me installing wire harnesses on Heathkit, or on the Heathkit color gun, projection TVs when I was 12, and showed me how to build the Heathkit radios and stuff like that. I mean, I got that part of me from him.
Wow.
He was a genius. He was the youngest guy to get a Class A ham license. He was an electrician, and he also had HO trains, and he restored Indian motorcycles. And
gosh.
And he built he designed it. He did his own schematics and designs and built radio controlled airplanes from balsa wood. And he was in the Guinness World Book of Records for the biggest B-52 radio controlled airplane for the longest time. He might still be in there.
Incredible.
Yeah. My dad was very intelligent, self-taught, and a really interesting dude.
Wow.
But he was mean as hell too, I gotta say. He didn't mess with Harry. I'm just saying.
You have brothers and sisters?
I do. I have my sister Kathleen, everybody knows, and she's older, 11 years. And then I have a little sister, Sherry. I think she's maybe 3.5 or so years younger than me. And then my brother Bob, who's 14 months younger than me. So there's 4 of us: Debbie, Bobby, Sherry, Kathy. Is that and our last name was Bob. Is that like the all-American name family of all time? Come on. So generic.
Growing up where you did and when you did, what did you do to play? I mean, what was a routine of, a weekend or during the summer or after school? How did you guys entertain yourselves?
Well, we spent a lot of time outside. I spent a lot of time on my banana seat bicycle out by the pond. I would ride on the dirt hills on my bike in the pond, and we'd fish, we'd hunt for crawdads in the pond. And, I tried to grow tadpoles into frogs one summer, and,
How'd that work out?
It didn't work out. The birds had a nice snack though.
Okay.
But, there was a apple tree that overlooked a place where there was a horse that somebody had out in the field, and there was a little platform in this apple tree, and I would spend a lot of time up in that apple tree with my that 3D viewer, Viewmaster.
Yeah.
My little slides, and I would sit up in that platform and look at my slides and my thing and throw apples to the horses. And we spent a lot of time outside, even in the winter time. My mom's like, get out and play, wrap us all up, and we'd play outside. My mom had a penchant for those little magazines, romance magazines of the time, back in the 70s. She'd throw us all out in the backyard with a hose full of water and a bologna sandwich while she'd lay on the bed and read her magazine until she fell asleep. And we knew what she'd been doing, because she'd get up and she'd have like chenille bedspread marks on her face. So. Yeah.
I love it.
And then when we got older, as us kids got older, and we all, even after we married and moved away, we all lived within 10 minutes of mom and dad's house, all of us, for the longest time. And our kids, we'd always go to my mom and dad's house, and like on Friday or Saturday nights, and we had family poker games. And I told you about those when we were talking. Those people were ruthless. They did not care if you spent your whole rent money. Too bad, you ain't getting it back. Should have been so dumb. And our poker games were hysterical. And if there was beer involved, they were even more hysterical. I miss that so much. I mean, even and we got sick of poker after a while, we'd start playing Yahtzee. Now, how many people do you know play Yahtzee for money? My family would play Yahtzee for money. I swear to God. But, it just made it more interesting. That's all. But I miss it. I miss it so much. Mom and Dad passed away and we've all kind of scattered, and I really grieve for those times.
Yeah. Well, you're lucky you have those memories. The Jewish version of that, growing up in Queens, New York, for me and my sisters and my cousins, we'd all go over to my Nana and Pops, my mother's parents, Russian immigrants, and everybody would play gin rummy or pinochle. And they were a family of, it wasn't like they were temperance people. I just don't remember alcohol ever being involved. They drink club soda and cherry soda and eat hot peppers and nuts. And me and my cousins and my sisters would gather under the card table set up in the dining room, and we would be waiting for an adult to be put in a situation where they would curse. And it would be like a total win when we would hear a curse word. We didn't want to laugh too loud because we might put them off. Not that they didn't know we were there. They could, feel us with their feet. But wonderful memories nonetheless. Were you much of a reader as a kid, Deb?
I did like to read.
What kind of books?
I read, I can't even, I hate being old. That's why I wrote everything down. Nancy Drew. I read Nancy Drew books, and my most favorite book of all time, and I read it every year, once a year, from the time it was read to me in the first grade. I made a point of reading this book every year, and then finally bought my own copy of it. Was A Wrinkle in Time by Madeleine L'Engle. I'm sure I just butchered her last name, but you got the idea. I resonated with that main character in that book, that little girl who felt so odd. And then she had this whole, I learned what a tesseract meant, I'm sure, decades before anybody all my friends knew.
Please share it with us, because many of our listeners might not know.
A tesseract, it's like, a wrinkle in time.
Thank you.
Okay.
Movies and television. What kind of stuff did you guys gravitate toward?
Well, when I was younger, we watched like Red Skelton and Ed Sullivan, and then I loved Carol Burnett. We like the variety shows. We watched a lot of the variety shows when I was younger, coming up, and I don't really watch a lot of TV now. Yeah. I remember big things on TV when I was a kid, because we didn't really watch a lot of TV as kids. We were outside playing too much.
That's great.
We didn't sit around and watch TV. I mean, I watched Popeye and Janie show and Captain Kangaroo, stuff like that. Did you guys have Captain Kangaroo? And, but yeah, Fred Flintstone and the Jetsons and, stuff like that.
The world of movies?
Movies. My mom and dad used to take us to the drive-in theater on Saturday night at the Shadeland. Mom she'd pop a big grocery sack full of popcorn and make a thermos full of cooler, and then plop us kids out on our butts on, folding chairs out in front of the car. And it was always, Westerns, cause my pop loved them Westerns, John Wayne movies. And like I saw the Culpeper Cattle Company on in the big screen drive-in, and I saw True Grit, and that was my favorite. True Grit.
A great film.
I had a big old crush on Glenn Campbell in True Grit. And then also, like I told you, my dad was a science fiction fan. Yeah. We saw every Planet of the Apes movie at the drive-in theater. And I had, believe it or not, I know this is weird, I had a crush on Roddy McDowell as the ape. As the character in Planet of the Apes. What is wrong with me? When all my girlfriends we would listen to the Monkees and Neil Diamond and stuff like that on our 45s. And all my friends had a crush on Davy Jones in the Monkees.
Right.
And he was British guy. Not me. I was all about Mickey Dolenz. I like the guy that made me laugh. I didn't trust the cute ones. So.
Not a bad policy.
But yeah, so, and then later on, we did watch a lot of Star Trek. I've seen every Star Trek episode from the very beginning of Star Trek to the newest one and the latest movie with my dad 1 billion times over. Daddy was a big Star Trek fan, and I'd watch it with him, and, again, everybody had a big crush on, William Shatner, James T. Kirk. Not me.
Spock.
Who did I like? Spock. He was my guy. Oh, yeah. I have never been like anyone else. I swear.
I'm laughing in part because I'm thinking if Bud were here, we would immediately start talking about not skeptics. We all have to be skeptics, especially people like us, but debunkers, the people that know that such things don't happen. Why? The mantra is they don't happen because they can't happen, and it's something else, and I'll explain it to you. That Philip Klass would say, oh, well, that's why, Debbie thinks that she was abducted by aliens because she saw so many Star Treks and so many science fiction films with her family, which is, it'd be funny if it wasn't so incredibly insulting. And in fact, while you did have, in the best sense of the word, as far as I'm concerned, a wonderfully all-American childhood, it was not uninformed by some very strange things growing up as well.
Well, yeah. And I get that. Good God. If I always feel like I'm the most skeptical person of my own stuff, and always have been, because I really strived to, find the rational explanation for things. Yeah. I gotta live here, and I'm not crazy. I understand that the stuff I see on TV is TV stuff.
Yeah.
I never had a problem, thinking that any of that was real.
Exactly.
I understood that was TV. And, but I've always been my biggest skeptic in everything I've remembered. The problem is, and this is what the problem I think Phil Klass always had, my taste in television program doesn't explain the mark in the yard, doesn't explain the witnesses from the neighborhood. I mean, there's just
the burn mark in the lawn.
Now I fully get that if that's all I had was me, and I've said it 1 million times, if I was always alone with this, and it was always just me, and no one else ever saw anything or heard anything weird or anything, I might be more skeptical of it myself, and I may not even really tell anybody about it because I would wonder if I was actually, not quite right up there or something. But I've come to learn that people who are really crazy don't question whether they're crazy or not. They think everybody else is crazy, and they're fine. And so
continue. Yeah.
No. I'm just rattling on because I do that sometimes.
Well, you're the guest on this show. We're paying you the big money to rattle on. One of the things that I was remembering in rereading parts of your book and Bud's book was when he'd come back from Indianapolis, and talk about what went on that visit with you. The thing that always came through was, this woman is smart. She's outspoken. She's incredibly objective, smart in the common sense way, but also you're a Mensa member. That means technically on a certain level, it's such an overused word, but there are genius aspects to your normal thinking patterns and your grasping abstract concepts. And what a wonderfully well-grounded family. He really loved your family. As he got to know them over the years. And I want to ask you now to take us back to when you first remember a contact experience, either on your own, Kathy, Laura, or what sits in your mind now when you remember your first contact experience, per se?
Well, my first experience with this stuff, actually, I remember my sister, Kathy. in 1965. She took my mom to a bingo game and apparently ended up having several hours of missing time. And her car was lifted up into some kind of a craft over the church. The next thing she remembered was her car was in the parking lot of the church, and it was now dark, and it was also now like 5 hours later and time to go pick mom up from bingo, you know. And we used to make fun of her about it, but we didn't disbelieve her. We just, as younger brothers and sisters, we saw something that got a rise out of her, so we just took it and ran with it, you know. But my family always was, you know, she would tell about it until we made her mad, and then she'd shut up, but we always supported it. And then my earliest, I have earlier memories. Kathleen took me to Michigan to see a friend of hers, and she, because I had played with this friend's little sister, who was my age when they were here in town. And so when Kathy went up there, I think it was in the spring, to visit Denise, she took me so that I could see Eileen. That was the little girl I played with. It was just going to be like a overnight weekend trip. And when I was up there, I remember what I had for lunch that day. I had a grilled cheese sandwich. I remember being in the yard playing with the ball, kicking the ball over the fence and jumping the fence to get it. And then the next thing I remember, I'm completely lost in this strange neighborhood. And I see a house that I think is where I'm supposed to be, and the door's open. So I walk in and I encounter this little boy, my size. And he looks human, but his eyes are big and black. And he wants me to come and play with him. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not supposed to be here. The house is a jumbly mess and I'm feeling scared. There's furniture and stuff in it like there should be, but like an end table is sitting on top of a chair. You know, things are not where they're supposed to be. And I'm feeling scared. And I don't know how, coaxes me somehow to come into this room where these toys are, quote unquote.
Yeah.
And then I am suddenly in the doorway of this house, and this kid's mother comes out, and she's big and mean and scary, and she has big black eyes, and she's yelling at me, "You don't belong here. You need to get out now." And then it was like someone shoved me out the door. I literally tumbled out of this house, and when I regained my bearings, there was my sister Kathleen standing at the edge of the walkway at the sidewalk. She takes my hand, walks me back to where I'm supposed to be. Nothing's ever said. And this whole thing went away in my head until Budd came, and he actually got a hold of the lady in Detroit, the hose house we went to, and she confirmed that I had indeed been missing for quite a while that day, and people were searching for me. So that's my earliest memory of some weird stuff. Then when I was married first to my first husband, I had this weird, I called it a dream, one night where these two little guys, which were basically your gray alien big-eyed dudes, were in my bedroom, and I was freaking out, and I couldn't get my husband awake. I couldn't really move. And they had a black box in their hand with a red light on it, or in it, and they kind of handed it to me and set it down in front of me, and I asked what it was, and they told me I would know what it was and how to use it when I saw it again. Then they just kind of took the box, slid backwards. I mean, they didn't really walk. They kind of glided backwards and got real weird looking, like I was looking at them through fire. You know how heat makes things wavy? And then poof, they were gone. Next morning when I woke up, I told my husband about it. I was hysterical because I mean, it's weird because I just like fell right to sleep. And then when I woke up and I told him, his reaction was, "What the hell did you eat for dinner last night?"
Sure.
So
we know, of course, that being turned on and off, or having a reaction of, I'm walking into a strange house. This is a little boy, but it's not a little boy. This is a house, but it's not a house. It just, you know, it's the way it happens. And I'm going to bring up a drawing here. in the literature, a fairly famous one that you're very familiar with. Would you tell us about that drawing?
That is the drawing that I did for Budd. Budd asked me to try to draw what the guys looked like in my room that night.
Yeah.
Everybody makes fun of me. Oh, he's wearing a turtleneck. Oh, I don't know that they called it a turtleneck. I just know that he had black material. His clothing covered everything up. But I worked on that a lot. I'm not an artist. I can't draw stick people. But for about a year.
It's a great witness drawing.
But you know what? For about a year after the mark in the yard happened, and I don't know why, I could draw anything related to my experiences like this. All I had to do was look at a blank piece of paper, and it would like be superimposed on that paper, and I just had to fill it in with my pencil. Okay. I could do this, but only for this stuff, only for anything that was related to my experience like that and, symbols and whatnot. And that after about a year, that kind of dissolved and went away, and I'm back to stick people again. I can't draw, but that to me was very weird that I was able to do that.
Do you remember the first time you spoke to your mom or dad about these kinds of things?
You know what? I don't remember speaking to them until after June 30th, 1983. About this sort of thing.
And
we talk
about
paranormal stuff. We talk about paranormal, like a ghostly stuff every great once in a while. I mean, my mother loved Sylvia Browne, and she loved, who's that other psychic from olden days? She loved all that sort of stuff. But,
Uri Geller?
No, it was a woman.
Jean Dixon?
Even to this day. Before mom would say, what do you think I am, Jean Dixon? Yeah. So, my parents were interesting parents. They weren't always the greatest parents in the world. I mean, everybody has some dysfunction in their family, and we did too. But my mom and dad were both very smart.
Yeah.
They were kind of opposite of each other in some ways. And, they both had their own special kinds of gifts, you know? So, I feel lucky that they were my parents in that way.
In the summer of 1983, you came to read a book called Missing Time by a man named Budd Hopkins. What drew you to that book, and what were your thoughts once you had completed reading it?
Well, I was a single mom with no dang money at all, and I had a very well-worn library card. And I would go to the library with my two little kids because we lived right across the street from one for a while.
Great.
Pick up stacks of books and bring home and read through them, and mostly kids' books and how to be a better mom and all that stuff. I try to read a lot of self-help books, things like that. And I saw Missing Time, big orange book, big black letters, and I'm like, that's an interesting cover. And I looked at it, and when I first I looked at it, I thought it was like somebody kidnapping people when I saw. But then it was in the genre. I think at the time they kept books like that in like the occult section. And I was I browsed through all the different sections of, including that one because of Sylvia Browne and Jean Dixon and my mom, So, I picked it up and I thought, oh, this might be interesting. And I kind of looked through it and I thought, okay, so I took it home. I started reading it, and I kid you not, the first week or so that I was trying to read this book, I went to the emergency room, I think no less than 2 times.
What?
Thinking that I was having a heart attack.
Oh.
I got my mom to take me to the emergency room. And after the second time, and I was talking to Mom about this book, and she's like, you need to take that book back to the library because we can't afford this. When I read a book, here's my modus operandi. I look at the front and back cover flaps. Yeah. I look at any pictures that might be involved. Then I read like the last, 10 pages or so. And then I decide whether I want to go and invest and read the whole book. I know it's cheating, but that's
there are no rules.
I'm a wanton woman. But in the back of that book, I remembered I thought, oh, this is cool. You can actually write to this dude.
That's right.
There was an address you could write to him.
Yeah.
Noted, locked in. Took the book back to the library. and thought, I'm done with you. I can't go back to the emergency room anymore. I would have these panic attacks when I would read the other people's experiences. It hit me so hard, and I'm like, I don't know, and I didn't know why. On a conscious level, it just ate at me. It just clobbered me. So then that June 30, 83 happened. When I laid eyes on that mark in the yard for the first time, the first thought in my head were those two big black eyes just superimposed over that mark. The second thought I had was, I need to go back to the library and get that book, because I need to tell this man about this. Yeah. That's important.
You know, reading that part of the narrative, I thought, that's the post office box I used to go to twice a week to pick up the mail from people like you. And you ended up writing a letter to Budd, and then you tore that letter up, correct?
Oh, dude, I wrote about a dozen letters to him and threw it away. And then when I finally did finish writing it, what I did was I basically told him about Kathy's 1983 experience.
That's right.
So I kind of tossed her under the bus a little bit, kind of, dipped my foot in the water. And at the very end, I'm like, oh, and by the way, this happened here recently, and I sent photos of the mark in the yard.
15 photos. I remember reading the letter. I remember looking at them. It was like, holy, what the hell?
And then, see, I gave it to my mom to mail, right? Well, I didn't know this till many, many years later, and she was talking to Budd, and she said, Debbie gave me that letter to mail, and I was going to the bank, and I was going to put it in the mailbox, and she goes, and I didn't. And she goes, I went back to the bank several times with that letter still in my purse, and I just didn't want to put it in the mail. And she said, one time when I was there, she goes, it fell out of my purse, and I realized I hadn't mailed it yet. And she goes, I don't know why, but at that time, bam, it went in the mailbox, and she mailed it, but she almost didn't mail it.
Well, I read thousands of letters to Budd, answered a good many of them, and not a lot of them stand out in my mind at this point, 30, 40 years later, but yours does, in part because of those photographs. And the result of that was that Budd contacted you and then began a 3-year-long committed investigation, which took Budd to Indiana 4 times and brought you to New York 3 times. Do you remember, can you tell us what it was like for you the first time you met Budd Hopkins? What was your take on him and your thoughts now?
Oh my God. I had to sell my washer and dryer to get enough money for a bus ticket to go to New York, because I was flat broke. And that's how desperate I was. I was living with my mom at that point, so my washer and dryer were in storage. I sold them and got enough money to buy a bus ticket. Took a bus, 17-hour bus trip, I think, all the way to New York City. Halfway there, I wanted to jump off the bus and go home, because I had this little epiphany of like, what the hell are you doing? You are a mother with 2 little boys, and you're about to go to New York City. I'd never been anywhere in my life. I had this phobia about being lost or getting lost, which I think is probably connected. But here I am on this bus going to New York to meet this man I don't even know, who could be an axe murderer for all I know. I mean, that's what I'm thinking in my head. This guy could be like a serial killer, and I'm like walking right into his web like some dummy. What is wrong with you? And had a major panic attack on the bus. So when I got off the bus, I'm sure I was wrapped about 10 times too tight, and I'm pretty sure Budd could see that. And I remember him, when I saw him, he was so sweet and kind, and I thought, I relaxed a little bit. And then we took the subway to go home. First time I ever been on a subway.
He met you at the bus terminal.
And we took the subway, and the lights went off in the subway. I about peed on myself. I thought I was going to faint, and Budd, and he knew it. Instantly, he grabbed my arm and he said, "It's okay. That's normal. Don't worry." But I mean, once I got there, I was still wrapped tight as a drum and anxious. I had a feeling in my head. I don't know why. I was reaching out to this man who I felt had knowledge that could help me get my life back and calm down. But there was a part of me in the back of my mind that they were going to be mad at me because I came here and talked to this guy, and then when I come back home, S is going to hit the fan.
Yeah.
You know, so once I got to New York and I calmed down a little bit and I was time to go home, I was almost scared to go home back to Indiana, back to the middle of nowhere where I was like a sitting duck.
Yeah. One of the patterns common to abductees first appears in our knowledge in the Betty and Barney Hill case, which happened in 61 and then became public knowledge in 1965. It's that people that go through experiences like yours sometimes, in fact, quite commonly, go through, the best term is a forced amnesia. You are compelled not to remember, which may be a kindness on a certain level, but under the surface are anxieties or concerns or panic attacks that you can't quite pin down. The second pattern that we've seen over the decades has to do with that these things usually begin when you're young, 6 or 7 years old, and if you wanted to explore further back, that you certainly could. The third pattern has to do with scars that are the result of taking tissue samples or procedures. And you have a particular mark that we have seen in hundreds of cases that we know about. We call it a scoop mark. And it happens to be in the same location as a very similar mark that your mother has. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, the fat calf seen all the way around the world. That's why I called it my big fat leg. My scoop mark is on my calf. Well, it's on the front of my calf, on my shin. Yeah, I thought it was a birthmark for a long time. I thought I was born with it. It's always been there as far as I could remember. And Mom had, like you said, exactly like it on the same leg in the same place. It looked identical to mine. And I wanted to make a comment about, the first thing you said about, the forced amnesia.
Please.
During a traumatic incident that happened to me in my life that I'm sure talk about later, that had nothing to do with, paranormal or UFO stuff, by the way. I did not remember hearing the gunshot for 3 months. Okay. It took 3 months for me to remember that I heard the gunshot, and it came quickly and abruptly, but it took 3 months. And that's when I learned, and after counseling, I learned that the human mind is a wonderful thing. Yeah. And it has a way of protecting itself from things that it can't fathom or can't tolerate or can't stand, obviously seeing some kind of an alien life form wherever it's from, and feeling like your life is threatened and that painful things are being done to you is a traumatic thing. Yeah. So in some ways I wonder if it's our own minds trying to save us from this unthinkable, just something that doesn't even fit into this world at all, after having gone through that with my late husband. So,
yes. I think you need to tell people what that gunshot was about. My
late husband in 1994, committed suicide. Yeah. He shot himself in our backyard with a 12 gauge. I witnessed it, and as did all of the sheriff's department of Howard County and SWAT team. But like I said, it took 3 months for me to remember that I heard the gunshot. I kept telling the paramedics and the sheriff that the angels had their hands over my ears because I didn't hear it. And my son I knew my son had been in the bathroom upstairs. He was 14 at the time, and they had him down on the floor. He said, I know he looked at me like I was crazy. He was like, Mom, I heard it.
Yeah.
And he was in a bathroom with no windows, but my mind just shut off.
Yeah.
So
I really appreciate you bringing that up. First, if it was something that wasn't okay with you to discuss, obviously we wouldn't have. You know, as a friend, that I worked for 8 years on a very busy crisis intervention hotline, dealing with a lot of people who were suicidal over the years, as a volunteer and as a shift supervisor. And even so, I cannot imagine what that experience was like any more than otherworldly experiences. But you bring up a very important point in the rush to ascribe powers and abilities to these other intelligences, which granted they certainly seem to have in their day-to-day dealings with human people as well as their technology. It's very important to remember the power of the human mind to perform these things on its own. And more conventional trauma, be it suicide, sexual abuse as a child, or what have you, often, I think with great kindness on the part of nature, we see you don't remember it until you're equipped to remember it or able to remember it in a way that you don't have to relive the terrible suffering that you've had. We're coming up toward a break, not quite yet, but we will be cutting away shortly and then coming back. Early on, Budd inquired about your medical history, as he would in any case, and you had episodes of colitis, irregular heartbeat, insomnia, acute anxieties, as we know, and you went into group therapy at a point, and your psychologist thought that these conditions might be the result of some yet unremembered trauma or event that you were not able to deal with at that time. That makes perfect sense in retrospect, doesn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. When we come back, we will pick up with the June 30th, 1983 event, which I'd like you to lay out for us. Again, Deb, it means the world to me to have you as a guest here. We have become such good friends over the years. My sister Helen was nuts about you, absolutely crazy about you, and I know you felt the same way toward her. And I remember the first support group that you took part in. I mean, it was the very first UFO abduction support group in the world. And some of the friends that you made then, you know, we're still in touch with. Yep. Russ Hudson and some others who is like a brother to us and who I hope to have on the show as well at some point. But for right now, this is Peter Robbins. This is Meanwhile Here on Earth, with my amazing guest, Deb White-Kauble from the great state of Indiana. And we are going to cut away, Race. How about right now for a couple of minutes of commercial time and then return here on KGRA Digital Broadcasting.
Intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now. The Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Are you still at it?
Yeah, I need more speed.
This baby's fast.
My dad's fast. He's scary fast.
Do you really think you could beat him?
Yeah, because I drink more tea than he does.
Yeah, right.
You know, pal, it's the tea that makes you go. Oh. Hey, Dad. You know, kiddo, you have to drink a lot more tea to be faster than me.
Drink the tea that makes you go. Life Change Tea. You may not need as much as Dad. You never know. GetTheTea.com. Log on to GetTheTea.com.
Welcome to the new KGRA digital broadcasting website, thekgradb.com. Here you'll find great new content, including the KGRA Classics, great shows from our archives. You'll be able to see the show times and information so you can see what show is currently on air. the on-air live button. So just go to this section and you'll be able to hear the show live with exceptional sound quality. We also have the Vault section. Make sure to subscribe to get access to great content and special features. We have the make content for our latest news and events, so make sure to sign up and you can be part of our forum. So make sure to check out the new KGRA digital broadcasting website, the KGRADB.com. We look forward to seeing you there, and we hope that you enjoy the new website.
Mainstream media's most wanted. KGRAradio.com.
And welcome back to Meanwhile Here on Earth with your host, me, Peter Robbins, and our guest, Deb White-Kauble. Let's bring that beautiful woman back on the screen, if we might, Grace. There we go. You have a nice break, Deb?
Yep.
Good. Can't help it.
I'm getting a Charlie horse.
So... let's take a look at three photographs. Oh, wait. We'll take a look at two photographs of you with your main man here.
Oh, that's Budd. Look, I love him. I loved him so much. He was like a father to me. And good God, I looked like I was pregnant. Wow.
And
that is me and Budd at the very first time I was ever out in public talking about this thing. I think we were up in Michigan.
Wow.
At the Michigan MUFON meeting.
Yeah. I'm going to be speaking for Michigan MUFON electronically on this coming Saturday. I'm really looking forward to it. That was your first public talk.
Well, yeah, I mean, my very first time ever up on the stage was when Budd, I think it was in Connecticut or something. He brought me up there. Oh, Lord, I thought I was going to have a heart attack. I don't feel like I'm a public speaker. It still makes me nervous. I'm self-conscious and, you know, and God, and the stuff I had to go up and tell them about, you know, was hard for me. So Budd was great though. I did it for him.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can bet the people that were in that audience really valued it. We're going to take a look at three photos here. And I believe these are three of the original photos that were stuffed in that envelope that your mother almost didn't mail.
Yep.
And without a context, this is pretty innocuous, but this is a really important photograph. This is on your property, and it is we'll call it a burn mark, but it's where a truly anomalous object from parts unknown sat. And after it left, nothing grew in that spot for more than a year and a half, as I recall, or longer.
Yeah, it took several years for it to heal. It was almost like it had healed like a wound.
Yeah. And we know from, you know, the physiological changes to the organic material, i.e. your backyard, that it literally skidded into place because the mark leading up to it, and this is in winter, as I recall, or certainly off season, nothing grew on that line for that same period of time.
Snow melted off of the mark, the circle and the line that first winter. Every time it snowed, a few minutes later, whatever snow had landed on that spot had disappeared.
It was like it was baked. And going back to the original shot here, and then in the winter, same shot, slightly different angle.
Snow starting to melt off of it. Yep.
Yeah. Pretty incredible.
It was weird.
Yeah, weird's the word for it. So can you take us back to June 30th, 1983 and lay out as best as you can what happened that day?
It's hard to condense it down for the sake of time, but I'll do the best I can.
Well, take your time. We've got an hour.
I was living with Mom and Dad at the time, and the two little kids was going to go cut some patterns out for the lady who was a friend of mine who lived behind us. And she made costumes and I was a seamstress. I couldn't sew worth a darn, but I knew how to use scissors. So she gave me money to do that and help mom and dad, to help pay for our food and stuff, me and the boys. Anyway, I was standing at the kitchen window, looking out the window, or standing at the kitchen sink, looking out the window and washing my hands, ready to head off. We had just eaten. And I noticed that the pool, there was a swimming pool in mom and dad's backyard, a nice big Esther Williams underground cement pond, you know, and it had a pump house next to it, sand pump house. It wasn't very big, like a mini barn, maybe a little smaller than a mini barn. The door was open and there was a weird light coming out of it that just didn't sit quite right with me, although at the time I couldn't put my finger on why. Yeah. And I knew that door I knew it shouldn't have been open, and I knew the light should have been off because I was the one who went out and did the chlorine and helped take care of the pool in the evenings. And I had been out there and I knew it was something wasn't right. And I mentioned it to mom and she's like, "Yeah, don't worry about it." So when I got in my car, and my mom and dad had it was a tri-level, and their driveway was split. One part of the driveway went down the front of the house, and one part went along the side, and the side of the backyard, and then the pool, and then there was another turnaround in the back that was, my dad had a workshop back there. So it was a pretty good sized property. And, I decided, well, I'm going to just drive down that side drive, turn around, just to see if everything's okay when I leave. So I did. I noticed that the door was now mostly closed and the light was off. And I thought, okay, mom must have went out and done that while I was getting in the car. Or, you know, I wondered. It just felt weird. Something didn't strike me as completely right. But I went ahead and went on to Deanne's house. It was just one street behind us, so it wasn't like I was going far. I also had noticed that the garage door, the pedestrian door to the garage that was attached to the house, was open. And I thought to myself in fleeting, oh, Penny's probably going to get out, because we kept her in there at night while she was in heat, so we didn't have 8,000 puppies. Anyways, I got to Deanna's house and I decided I should call my mom. So I called her and I said, "You know what?" I said, "Did you shut that off? Did you shut that door? The pedestrian door, the garage is open, you know?" And she's like, "Don't worry about it. I'll lock the doors. Everything seems fine. Your dad will be home in a little while." My dad was working second shift at Ford. So I'm like, well, okay. So, cause I'm leaving this woman alone there with my two kids too. Yeah. Well, I hung the phone up, and then as soon as I hung it up, it rang, and I just kind of instantly, on reflex, almost snatched it up. And it was my mom again, and she says, really weird voice, "I want you to come home right now." And I thought, what the hell? My mom sounds scared, and nothing scared my mom. Yeah. So I said, "What's the matter?" You know, and Deanna and her husband are both paying attention now, and my mom's like, "Nothing. I just want you to come home right now." And I'm like, "Are you sure?" And Larry, Deanna's husband, says, "Tell her to call the police. That's what we pay him for." You know, over my ear, knowing that he knew something was wrong because he could see that I was upset. Yeah. And I'm like, "Oh, no." I said, "I'll be home in a minute." And I hung the phone up and I told my friend, I said, I'll be back. I'll be back in a few minutes. I just need to go see what's wrong. So I hurried home. It took me all of 2 minutes. Pulled up the side of the house, back on that same drive that I had gone to the turnaround to see the backyard. And I got out and I went in the house through what we used to call the Florida room. It was a add-on little patio room Daddy had built. Sure. He used to like take naps in there. The trash masher was out there, and he had a shotgun next to the trash masher that didn't have anything in it, but and I grabbed it as my mom met me at the door, and I grabbed that shotgun, and she's like, "That's not loaded." And I said, "They don't know that." I said, "I'll get up next to him and beat the shit out of him with it." Sorry, Race. Anyway, so I got out in the yard, looked around, and I didn't see anything. I went and looked in the pump house, didn't see anything in there amiss at the time. Wandered around seeing if I could find my dog. I found her underneath Dad's ladder truck back by his workshop, but she wouldn't come out. I thought, okay, now if there's somebody here, they're going to be in the garage. So I went in the garage, flipped on the light, didn't see anybody, didn't hear anything like somebody hiding or scattering. There was a set of mattresses leaned up against the wall, and I'm like, that is the only place in this garage someone could hide. So I creeped up and, cussing like a sailor, stick that shotgun behind the mattresses, and there's nobody there. And about the time I get to the mattresses, all of a sudden I felt weird. And it felt like my body was on fire. It felt like somebody just hit me with a blowtorch.
Wow.
And I remember thinking, oh my God, I have to get out of here right now. And I started to run towards that open pedestrian door. And when I got to the doorway, something hit me in the chest. It started right here in, I don't know, your solar plexus. I don't know.
That's right.
Hit me right there like a ball of lightning. And I couldn't move. The whiteness of the light was so intense and bright that I know my eyes were shut, but I could still see it. I couldn't. And it felt like electricity going down my legs and down my arms, and I couldn't move, and I could literally feel every single molecule of my body vibrate independently of each other. And it felt like time stopped. And I know I could not have survived that for more than a second or two, but it seemed like an eternity. And then that vibrating stopped. And I couldn't see. I mean, my eyes were so flash burned at that point. I mean, you know, you've gotten your picture taken before and forgot and didn't get to blink. And, you know, then you see like white spots for an hour and a half afterwards. You know, imagine that on steroids. And that's what my vision was like at that point. But I couldn't move. And I heard a disembodied voice, didn't see anybody. I heard this voice say, it was unfortunate. That was unfortunate. What just happened to me was unfortunate. The pain, it was unfortunate that I had to feel that pain, or I had that pain. So anyway, my assumption was that it was unintentional. You know, it's like they weren't trying to kill me, whoever it was. And I felt a tugging behind me at one point on my shoulder on this side, on the right side. And in my right ear, it felt like somebody in my mind, I could see what looked like a kneading needle that had been held under the fire so long it was and it went in my ear. And it was excruciating, but I couldn't scream and I couldn't move. And, I kind of blacked out in my mind. And then when I came back to I seemed to be further out of the doorway, and there was a white ball of light about 20 feet or so in front of me. It was about the size of a basketball. It was softer, much easier to look at than what hit me. And, it seemed to go down very slowly to the ground and then back up again to about my height. And I felt as if it were looking at me for some reason, that I was the target of it. And then at that point, I saw movement in front of, out in the yard. Movement, like little people, like kids. I thought it was kids. It wasn't full on high adults. It was little short, kids. And they were all kind of like in all different areas of the yard. And they all seemed to move together. They all came together in a line to my right, farther away from me, and then kind of like glided down in front of me. And as I followed them, mind you, I can't see details of who I'm looking at because my eyes are blown.
Yes.
I know they're there. I see them outlined, but I can't see any details. Plus it was dark at that point. But they all kind of glided down in front of me. And when they got past me and to my left, that's when I saw the thing. In retrospect, I can't say that it was a ship. We've called it a ship or a craft.
Sure.
But even those 6 little people in that thing would have been elbows and buttholes. There's no way no one could fly anywhere in that for any length of time. So I don't know what it was. I can't even guess. But they went into it.
more than a year later, in November of 1984, you and Budd explored this memory, this experience in hypnotic regression. What did you learn during that session?
You know what? I can't remember a lot other than seeing those little guys with the big heads and the gray and the black eyes.
Yeah.
Even to this day. That's who was in the backyard. And I didn't remember a whole lot of, that night in particular. Good. I think I remembered other nights.
Yeah.
But, after that night, I kind of went crazy.
Yeah.
And I got sick.
For anybody that's interested, because Budd, as part of the way that he narrates the story, includes a partial transcript of Deb's hypnotic regression about that event in Intruders. One more reason for you to read the book. And we have so much to cover, a lot of which we're not going to get to cover today, but all the more wonderful reason to get you back on, that I'm not going to go into belaboring that. Your family, again, was involved in this to different degrees. Your sisters had their own experiences. And I'm thinking now of your sister Laura, who had her own missing time event. When Budd asked her if she had read your copy of Missing Time, she said she had borrowed it from you, started to read it, but it made her feel very uneasy and she was unable to finish it. Do you remember that?
Laura in Budd's book, but actually that was my sister Kathy. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Kathy.
Okay. I know, actually, I didn't realize that she had borrowed my book. At least I don't remember that now. Again, it's a good thing I write this stuff down because I'm getting one of the things I wanted to do that book that I have finished now because is because Daddy had dementia. Kathy, has very severe dementia. She's had strokes. I'm concerned that, that could be my future and I want to make sure I document everything.
Yeah.
Because I'm afraid I'll forget it. 35 years later, I already forget little things. I go back and read the Intruders and think, oh my God, I forgot that.
Yeah. 35 years is a long time. You're allowed to forget, especially if these are things that most sane people would want to forget. Yeah. So you got to pass on that. You went on a memorable camping trip, that you and Budd later explored in hypnotic regression. Do you remember that?
Was it the one with my girlfriend when I was 16 and the boys?
Yep, that's right.
God, I remember that. And it was so funny because, that didn't just involve me. That involved my BFF, my best friend, who's still my BFF now.
Yeah.
And her whole family had interaction with these 3 boys.
Yeah.
2 of which looked like twins and the other one looked like me, which is kind of weird. I didn't figure that. I didn't get that, but Terry and her mom and dad all said, yeah, that boy looked just like you, only the boy version. Yeah. But we were camping at Rough River State Park in Kentucky. And her family had many years been going there in the same spot, had a little cabin. It was actually a trailer, but, me and Terry were playing on the CB radio. That was a hot thing back then,
mm-hmm.
and talking to boys on the CB radio. And, these boys contacted us on the CB and we were kind of talking to him and it was getting late. The campfire was starting to go down. Terry's brothers had all gone inside. Mom and Dad were already in there. Me and Terry were out there. And then Terry got kind of bored with it. So she went inside and I'm like, I'll be in a minute. And I was talking to these boys. Yeah. I don't know why I should have just gone in with her, but anyway, the one I was talking to said, we want to come and see you. And I'm like, now? No, you can't come now. Oh, yeah, we can. We're almost there. I'm like, what do you mean you're almost there? How do you know where I am? And all of a sudden he says, I see you. And I turn around and here's his headlights coming up over the ridge. And I'm like, oh, Terry's dad is going to kill me. I'm dead. I am now officially dead. But, this car kind of glides up on gravel road. These two boys get out, and they look like twins. They're dressed the same, tall, slender, with dark hair, nice looking boys. But they don't say anything to me. And then this other boy gets out, and he's much shorter, my height, almost, blondish, wavy hair like mine. I thought I immediately fell in love. How teenage girls are. And he walked up to me, and I believe he said something weird like, it's really finally good to finally meet you, or something like that. That really probably wasn't completely appropriate, but I didn't care. And we talked. I can't remember now if I went in and got Terry, or if Terry came back out when she saw the car. I can't honestly, I cannot remember, but I know eventually Terry was out there, came out, and then we took the boys, we took them in the house and introduced them to, her parents. And when I walked in there, they were all up. They had all been in bed, but there was her brothers, her mom and dad all sitting in the living room, all just kind of sitting there. And as soon as the blonde spoke, it's like everybody animated and woke up. And Terry's mom offered him drinks and whatnot. And then we all went out and we're sitting by the campfire, around the fire, not the adults, but the other Terry's brothers and whatnot. And, it was weird because he didn't really tell us a lot about himself. He said, we have a campsite over the ridge, and they were in some kind of a band, quote unquote, which would, totally the thing to say to a teenage girl. But mostly I remember they just asked a lot of questions about us. They wanted to know what we like to do for fun, what kinds of things we like to eat, what did we like to drink, what kind of, music did we like, what kind of movies. I mean, it was all things they wanted to know about us. And it wasn't, the two dark-haired boys never spoke. It was always the blonde. They were like little guardians of him or something. Yeah. I mean, and, he gave me a business card. When they got ready to leave, he gave me a card or something that had their name on it or something. I can't remember, but he gave me something. I think it was a card, and, or it might have been a ring. That ring I got from somebody else. I think this was a card. Anyway, they left, and I was just freaking bedazzled. I couldn't stop thinking about them all night. And everybody walked around like, it was kind of weird. As we started to come out from under the spell, it was like, what the hell was that? What just happened? So the next day, Terry, we all went to bed, and the next day I got up, and of course I still am completely obsessed. Yeah. And Terry's like, let's go over the ridge and find them. So we got in her car, it was a 67 Mustang, and we went over the ridge, and there was nothing there. There were no campgrounds, no campsites. Nobody had even been there. Yeah. It looked like nobody had ever been there. There was nobody, nothing. Yeah. And we never heard from them or saw them again. It was so weird because we were playing on the radio. We were talking to other people at first, and they all just kind of went away, and then this voice pops in. And I don't know what grabbed us about him to begin with, and then it was just creepy when he said, well, I see you now. And I turn around and there's those lights, and I'm like, whoa, I'm dead. That was the weird part. But, I remember I had the thing that he gave me, and when I went home, I had it. And after a couple of days of being home, it absolutely 100% disappeared flat out. I knew where I put it. I knew where it was. Went to go get it the next day, and it was in Bronzeville. Never found it. Never. Who has stuff like that happen to them? That is just weird stuff.
Do you remember exploring any of those memories with Budd?
No. I don't. Did I?
No, I that was more my curiosity.
I don't think we did. Honestly, I think we have so much more. I don't think that was anything that we actually...
But again, it sounds so illogical, and the questions you're being asked are
very one-sided
and very kind of human being 101 kind of questions.
That's like the guy I met on the bus trip, Pear, on my way home from my very first visit with Budd. When we stopped in Pittsburgh, maybe in Pennsylvania or somewhere, picked up this guy who I ended up spending the entire trip with, and like became mesmerized by and obsessed with. It was ridiculous, and totally out of character for me. And at the bus stop in Cincinnati is where we were going to part ways. I was going on to Indianapolis. He was going down to we were in Columbus. The bus stop in Columbus. I was going to Indy. He was going to Cincinnati. So that's where we separated. But we had a little bit of a layover. And there's a Burger King in every bus station in the entire planet. So we went to the Burger King to get something to eat. I was hungry. We went to the burger. This is in retrospect, it's so weird, but in the moment, none of it felt weird to me. It all felt completely normal.
Yeah.
We're at Burger King and he's looking at the menu and he goes, what is that? What is that? What is that? He's asking me things like, what is eggs? What is orange juice? What is what? And the menu was extremely limited at the time. So he ordered one of everything. And the guy's like, are you sure? And he's like, yeah. So we had 3 trays of food and, we're eating and we're talking and I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, I'm never going to see this guy again. I'm going to die without him. And the moment I thought that, he smiled at me. Ooh. He said, don't worry. I'll see you again. I'll come back for you. I promise. There's a long silver trailer near where you live and I want to take you there and dance with you. And I'm thinking to myself, but you don't even have my phone number. And as soon as I thought that, he said, write your phone number down for me. And I'm like, and at the time, none of it's clicking, right? So we get done eating and he says to me, I don't feel very good right here. And I go, what do you mean? He goes, I don't know. It just doesn't feel good here. And I go, it's probably all that food you just ate. You probably puke and feel better. And he goes, what is puke? Oh God. And I said, throw up, the stuff here comes back out. And he goes, oh yeah, that might be. And I had 2 Pepto-Bismol tablets in my car. And I said, here, chew on these. He goes, what is that? And I said, it's Pepto-Bismol. It'll coat your stomach and it'll calm it down. Maybe then you'll feel better. He goes, do you have the box they came in? And I said, yes, I do. And I gave it to him and he was reading the ingredients on it. He goes, oh, okay, that's interesting. He gave me back the box and he put the tablets in his pocket. And I said, no, Pear, you have to eat those.
Yes.
No, well, I will later. He said, I'm feeling better now. So I'm like, I got to go to the bathroom. Okay. He's like, okay. So we walk to the bathroom at the bus station and I start to go into the ladies' room and he starts coming in right behind me. I'm like,
oh no,
where you going? He goes, I'm going to the bathroom with you. And I go, no, you can't go in with me. And he goes, why not? And I said, look, let me explain something. Do you see the dress on this little lady here? And he goes, yeah. And I said, that's me. That's my plumbing. I said, you see that guy over on that door over there with the legs and the pants? That's you. That's where you go. He goes, oh, okay. I see now. He said, okay, I'm sorry. So I go to the bathroom and when I come back out, I literally open the door and this dude is like right here.
Whoa.
He goes, everything okay? I said, I'm fine. So, and still, this doesn't click with me. I am so in love and mesmerized by this perfect human being.
Nothing which makes sense, but continue on.
And then, so, and I did kind of come out of the bubble long enough to notice there was an Amish family or a Mennonite family sitting on some benches along the hallway that Pear and I were walking to, and Pear had my hand. He was holding my hand, and I noticed those people were looking at us like we had 100 heads. I mean, the looks on their faces was like, and I thought, what the hell are you looking at? And I thought, I know what you're looking at. Here's this gorgeous human being in this blob. And you're wondering what the hell is he doing with her? That's what you're thinking, right? I mean, it just triggered me for a moment that they were maybe seeing something that I didn't see.
Yeah.
And then we walk up to a box with the newspapers in it, and Pear says, "Oh," and you could see the paper on it. He goes, "I want to get one of those." And I said, "Do you have any money?" He goes, "I don't think I do." Coins. I put a quarter in the box and I got the paper or change, and I gave it to him. And it's time for me to leave and get on my bus. He was going to be a little later than me. And the world fit my mood at the time, because it was dark and pouring down rain and dreary and sad. And I started crying. Yeah. And he took my Sony Walkman headphones out of my bag, and he put them on my head, and he said, "I want you to get on the bus, and I want you to listen to your music, and I want you to look at this paper." And he says, "I'll come back for you someday, I promise. Don't cry." And so I got on the bus crying like a baby. I looked down at the paper, and when I opened up the page, it was 2 full pages of missing children. 2 full pages of missing children. That's what he handed me. And then I turned my Sony Walkman on, and the song started playing as if it were playing just for me. Yeah. And do you remember Spandau Ballet? True.
Oh, God. Yeah.
That song started to play. I still, to this day, every time I hear that song, I think of him. You know, the weirdest thing is the whole bus trip, 17 hours, he never ate or drank anything. He never went to the bathroom. He never had a growth of beard or anything like that. The whole trip was just weird as hell. I mean, this story with this guy is a whole book in and of itself, for real. And none of it registered with me as being weird. I had a fiance at home.
Yeah.
Yet when I got, and 2 little boys, but I would have walked to the end of the earth with this man that I did not even know. And I am not like that. No. And, I had dreams about him. Bud found him. He was actually a real guy. Bud talked to him. Bud talked to the man that he lived with in Cincinnati. And, so verified that he was real, because I think maybe Rosemary kind of thought maybe I was fantasizing a little bit, and I'm like, no, Bud found him and confirmed that he was a real guy. And I had dreams about him for years after that. He would come to me in dreams. One time when I was in the hospital and I had such bad back I couldn't walk, and I was about to have a myelogram the next morning in the hospital, and Pear came to me in my dream. And he sat down next to me on the bed, and he said, "Why are you in this place?" And I said, "'Cause my back is jacked up and I can't walk and I'm in excruciating pain." He goes, "You don't belong here." And so, and the next morning when I woke up, without even thinking, I got up and walked to the bathroom, went to the bathroom before I realized I just got up and walked, and I didn't even hurt. And they canceled the myelogram and they released me that morning. And also, he came to me years later in a dream, and he says in my dream, this is one of my vivid dreams. I have these vivid dreams. Yes. He said, "Take my hand. I want to take you somewhere really cool, and you're going to like it." I'm like, okay. So I took his hand, and as soon as I took his hand, everything went black. Black, black, black. And I couldn't even see my own hand or anything, but I could feel his hand in mine. And he said, "Hold on tight." And then all of a sudden I felt flat and I couldn't breathe. And I remember saying to him, "Oh my God, I can't breathe. I'm flat." And then I heard, now mind you, I can still feel his hand in mine, but I heard his voice, but it sounded like he was in another room far away, far, far away. And he said, "Oh shit. Sorry, Race. You can't go. You're not ready yet." And he said, "Let go of my hand." And when I let go of his hand, I woke up. And then I find out, God loved the internet and Google and everything else. And I tried to find this dude for years because I knew he was real. Bud talked to him. He was an actual real person. The guy who Bud talked to, who was his lifelong friend, said he was extremely eccentric, extremely interested in UFOs and paranormal stuff, was known to disappear for years at a time, and not bother to tell anybody where he was or what he was doing, and then come right back as if he just saw you yesterday with no mention of the previous 3 years. But anyway, so I'm trying to Google this guy, right, for years and years. Once I learned the Google and stuff, and couldn't find anything. But back in 1990, back in 2012, right before we moved, I found his grave. I know it was him. I remembered his birth date. I told Bud, because we had talked about it. I remembered his birth date. And the birth date was right. The name exactly was all three names that I knew of his full name. The birth date was exactly correct. The date of death was 1985. And he had died in an accident. But I hadn't started dreaming about him until after 1985. This was another reason that I started to get involved with the paranormal stuff.
Yeah. A question for you. Obviously, there are so many aspects of experiences you've had we can explore. I want to jump into as complex, as overwhelming, as uniquely a part of the abduction experience for certain women, and is certainly not something that only you have had this experience. I remembered a certain point over the years in working with Bud of a obstetrician who was so disturbed by what had happened with a patient of his that he didn't simply go into denial about what had happened to an almost full-term fetus, as most medical professionals did, or just filed it away somewhere and went back to doing what they were doing. He came to see Bud because he could not believe what had transpired. There's a chapter in this book that deals with it in terms that happened to you, called The Presentation. And it has to do with one aspect of these particular group of other intelligences, because I'm convinced we're dealing with quite a number of them with different motivations, different intentions, different relationships with humanity. But the ones involved in these kind of abduction scenarios, they are following bloodlines and creating beings that are part us, part them. The presentation. You want to talk about that for a bit?
Sure. That was always the hardest part to talk about. And
yes, it is.
I didn't necessarily want it even to be in the book.
Yep.
For the longest,
I remember.
You know, and I don't know.
Well, also there was very little in the literature about it until then. And Bud thought out loud to me about it in terms of, I'm not going to push her, but I would love to have it in the book. And that pulling that you occasionally have as an investigative writer of, you know, this person means a lot to me. I respect them, but I hope that they will allow me to do this. And by allowing Bud to do it, you added considerably to our knowledge of the subject. You were a real pioneer, and I think very courageous, because it allowed other women to come forward after the fact. And the subject was dealt with in the miniseries with the character, not you, but another character, in a way that was quite graphic, but made it real. So whatever you want to talk about relative to this, otherwise people can read about it in Intruders.
Well, when I found out I was pregnant before I had gotten married, you know, I was a little scared because, like I said before, you don't mess with Harry White. That's my dad. And you don't tell him you're pregnant if you're not, especially when you're not married and you still live under his roof. So that was something I had to face. But I was engaged to the guy that I assumed that I got pregnant by.
Yeah.
We were going to get married in June, but we moved the wedding date up to April when I found out I was pregnant. And I told my mom. She took me to the doctor. We had a pregnancy test. It was positive. I had a physical exam. The doctor even kind of thought maybe I was farther along than I thought I was. And, you know, anyway, I was babysitting for my sister one night, and I fell asleep on the couch and I woke up in my niece's room, and I woke up knowing that I wasn't pregnant. I'm panicking that my baby was gone. And, so I immediately went to the bathroom to check for problems, and there were none, but I couldn't shake this nagging feeling. I felt fine. And so, a few days later, I think, my friend talked me into going with her to Planned Parenthood, and she says, you get a pregnancy test there for free. It'll calm you down because you're getting on my nerves, cause I was so stressed out about the dreams or the nightmare that I had. And I didn't even really remember at this point the nightmare. I just remembered the horrible feeling of not having my baby. So I went and had the pregnancy test, and the lady came out and said, your test was negative. If you don't start your period in the next week, you need to contact your doctor or something. It was like somebody threw a cinder block at my head. And my girlfriend snatched me up and got me in the car before I freaked out because she knew what was coming. Yeah. And, so I told my mom, I said, something's wrong with my baby. Something's wrong with me. I got to go to the doctor. So she took me, and I had another pregnancy test, which was negative, and another exam. And then the doctors took us in his office, me and my mom. And he said to my mom, this happens. Sometimes this happens in young girls. We see this. And then he looked at me and he said, and he told her my mom says, well, does she need a DNC? Cause I was probably 3 or 4 months pregnant at that point. Okay. She said, does she need a DNC? And he's like, no, she's fine. And the doctor looked at me and said, my suggestion to you, young lady, would be that you just forget this ever happened. You're young. You will have plenty of other opportunities to have babies, along those lines. And I remember looking at him and said, I am never going to forget this. And that was it. It was never spoken of again. Never talked about in the family. Charlie and I went ahead and got married early because we were going to do it anyway. We'd switched our plans, but, and it was never spoken of again. I always have assumed that I got pregnant by my future husband, right. And that I somehow lost the baby, and maybe it was just psychic or something. I didn't know. So then all of this come up with Budd, Budd coming in, asking questions that triggered more memories, not just for me, but everybody. Yes. I remember my mom sitting at the kitchen table going, oh my God, I forgot that. I can't believe that I forgot we had this, Budd was a master at asking questions. Yes. Because I ask you a question and it would just trigger memories, Yes. So anyways, so that's a great interviewer, I guess. But, I remember he had come to Indiana because he was going to see me, but there was another case in Indiana that he had been contacted about, too far away from me. So I drove him out there so that he could meet with these people. Mm-hmm. And on the way back home, we pulled up in front of my mom's driveway, and I'm just kind of sitting there, and I'll never forget the look on his face. He looked at me like, are you okay? Oh. And I said, there's something I want to tell you. And I don't know why, and I'm embarrassed because it's crazy. Yeah. And he said, don't worry about crazy. Something along those lines, right? like I haven't already heard of crazy. I wouldn't worry about that. But anyway, and I literally had to practically make myself throw the words up out of my mouth to make me say it. I finally blurted it out, not unlike the kid that, when Santa Claus says you'll put your eye out, how he blurts out that he wants that BB gun right before he gets the foot. That's the way I just kind of blurted out. I was pregnant one time and then my baby disappeared. And Bud was like, and then he was like, oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah. I'm sorry. That's a terrible thing. He was trying to be nice. And then I thought, oh my God, I've done it now. I am absolutely insane. Why did I tell his man this? And I said to him, I have absolutely no idea whatsoever why I felt compelled to tell you this. And I have no idea what it means in regards to anything else that we're here talking about, why you're here, or UFO stuff. But for some reason or another, I had to tell you this.
But Kathy, with that as backstory, so to say, the presentation.
I was in, and mind you, I still call these things dreams because that's how I formulate them in my head.
Yeah.
But I know there's something different than a dream.
Yes.
I'm in this room, like a big hospital room, and there was always one particular entity that I dealt with. It was almost like he'd been through my entire life with me. He was familiar in some way. And on occasion he would try to like mentally communicate with me emotions and things like that I don't think he quite grasped, but he was trying to learn maybe from me. I don't know. And, I was angry because when she came into the room, she was with another one of those gray people, and I immediately, she looked like a human kid mostly, and I knew that was mine. That was my daughter. And when she looked at me, and I was excited initially to see her, and then she acted like she was scared to death of me. She couldn't even look at me and was hiding behind this thing. And I got mad and hurt and cried because she shouldn't be afraid of me.
Sure.
She should be afraid of them.
Yeah.
You know, you look like me, not them, you know? And I call him a he. I don't know. That's the vibe I had. Couldn't seem to understand why I was upset, because she was a good thing. And I'm like, I want to take her home with me. She's mine. She belongs to me. And he's like, no, you can't do that. She wouldn't survive with you. Yeah. It is better for her to stay with me.
Yeah.
It was like a mother and a father in a custody agreement.
Yeah.
Disagreement.
Well, that's exactly right.
So, yeah, that was crazy.
You know, and
I know it's crazy. And I don't expect people to, you know, believe it to be real. I still call it a dream, but it is.
For me, as somebody that this did not happen to and will never happen to put it mildly, but who has worked through some dozens of cases involving women who have had, with slight variations, the exact same experience. And again, in a number of cases, some contact that Budd had with medical professionals involved. And in this particular case, an obstetrician who was so troubled by the disappearance of a late-term pregnancy, complete disappearance, that he sought to counsel with Budd. I don't know if it helped him much, but this is as real as anything in this whole subject. Again, it cannot be easy to recount this. And however you are most comfortable dealing with it, seeing it, thinking about it in your world, in your life, you have every right to. I also realized as we were coming into the question, I called you Kathy, not because I was confusing you with your sister, but your pseudonym that Budd gave you in the book. Then came.
Pick a pseudonym. We're going to give you a pseudonym to protect you and your family. So pick a name of somebody that you really like and respect. And, you know, and I'm like, I want to be just like my sister Kathy. How about that? Can I do that?
I'm sure Kathy was delighted.
Yeah.
Anyway, in 1987, a major book hits the market. It was a very important year for UFO publishing, came out very shortly after Whitley Strieber's Communion. Timothy Good's very important Above Top Secret came out that same year. And not only did Communion, which became a smash bestseller all over the world, made Whitley temporarily wealthy, certainly. But this book did better for Budd than any other book that he wrote. And I worked for him for many years as a volunteer, and it used to be kind of a running joke, because with the exception of about 18 months where Crown Prince of Liechtenstein, Hans Adam, had given Budd a grant of some several $1,000s, some of which went to pay me for the first time in years and the last time forever, $8 an hour. So yes, I was in it for the money, ladies and gentlemen. My salary was up to $10 an hour after a while. Then we ran out of money, and I spent the rest of my life with Budd not getting paid. But every time a book would come out in another translation, I would get a copy of it. This was a UK edition. This was a Swedish edition. This was Dutch, Chinese, another Chinese edition. The main thing being that the book was universally available and read and seen. And then came the miniseries. And no matter how many people read the book, it's still a relatively small portion of the population, where a lot of millions of people saw Intruders, the miniseries. And I'm sure people that you knew saw it. And some of them knew that it was about you to a degree. What was that like?
Well, everybody keep my circle small to begin with, always have. But everybody in my world already knew my family and knew all the weird stuff that we had going on. And they were all, for the most part, very protective of me. And I'm grateful for that. My employer at the time was grateful. Even the police, I worked at a convenience store at night, and the police would come in if helicopters were flying over to check on me. They kind of knew most of all of it. Oh, neighbors, you know, everybody. And the neighbors that I lived with in the apartment building, they started having weird experiences that revolved around my apartment and me. So it wasn't hard for them to start figuring that, you know, stuff might be real. I was blessed. I was fortunate because a lot of my family was involved. Yeah. And then all my community, my neighbors around me were like that. I had a lot. I got a lot of support that most people in my situation don't get, which was reasons why I agreed to a lot of things for Budd, like baby stuff and going and speaking in public with him to support him, because he gave so much to us. I wanted to help. And all writing the books that I've written, you know, I want to give back because I have been blessed. I ain't made any money from it. Trust me, I worked in a factory for the last 15 years and tore my body up. But I, the revised edition of my first book with Kathy, it's just me now. And, it's called Extraordinary Contact, Life Beyond Intruders. And hopefully it'll be out in the spring from August Night Press. You'll be able to get it on Amazon and everywhere. And you can check out my husband has a really nice website that's, debshome.com, and the way to get to the book and to me will be through that.
Repeat that URL again for us.
It's debshome.com, DEBSHOME.com. Okay. But, you know, I just want to give back to people because I've really been blessed. I ain't made it. You know, I can count on my hand the money that's come in from any of these books. I've worked my butt off for what I have. But I get paid back in something that's more important to me than money, and that's, you know.
We should mention here that August Night Press is the imprint of our wonderful guest from last week, your and my good friend, Robbie Graham.
Yeah.
And we'll be when the book comes out, of course, I'll let, our listeners and viewers know about it. Deb, as we're coming in toward the end of the show, any thoughts, advice to other men and women out there, I guess especially women, who are having the kinds of experiences you had when you were younger, maybe dealing with some ridicule in their lives, blowback, feeling lonely, feeling isolated, feeling like they're going crazy at times? Any thoughts to share with them?
you're not alone, and reach out. Reach out to MUFON they have a whole section for abductee support. There's lots of abductee Facebook pages, support pages that reach out, just talk to somebody, and just know you're not alone. And I firmly and faithfully believe that, in my lifetime we'll be vindicated. I mean, for the people that I really feel that, so just, don't give up.
Yeah. I've got two pictures I want to end with purely for personal reasons here. And I see that they've disappeared because we are now back on my page because I screwed up in putting the pictures on another page, but it doesn't matter. It was a picture of you and me kissing you. As we start to head out, I want our listeners, I know I speak for a lot of us, and just our tremendous gratitude for having Deb White-Kauble as our guest tonight. To paraphrase Arnold Schwarzenegger, you will be back. And as a guest, as part of panels, if somebody is abducted shortly before they're supposed to be on the air, you are the first person I'm going to call. And next week, we'll be returning with my guest, Laird Scranton. Laird is an antiquarian scholar and author of a series of brilliant and fascinating books, including but not limited to The Science of the Dogon, The Cosmological Origins of Myth and Symbol, The Velikovsky Heresies, China's Cosmological Prehistory, The Mystery of Skara Brae, an extraordinary Neolithic site in the Orkney Islands between northern Scotland and the Arctic Circle, where I spent a few unforgettable weeks when I was younger and crazier. Laird is also featured in John Anthony West's Magical Egypt documentary series and in Carmen Bolter's documentary, The Pyramid Code. Frequent guest on a wide range of radio and podcasts, including Coast to Coast in Europe, Red Ice Radio, also a frequent presenter at conferences, and I am very much looking forward to having him on. Again, we'll let you know when Deb's book is published, and it's one you are really going to want to add to your library as well as Intruders. You can find Intruders, the miniseries, even though it's pretty tarted up with a lot of stuff that has nothing to do with Deb's story. It's interesting viewing, dated as it is from 1992. This is Peter Robbins and my guest, Deb White-Kauble, a woman I'm crazy about, and I don't care who knows it. And this is Meanwhile Here on Earth on KGRA Digital Broadcasting. Whether you are a long-time serious student of the subject at hand or relatively new to it, if you have enjoyed this show, please tell your friends. Please stay safe, be kind, and see you next week.